Talking Life with Adrian Wood from the mega popular Tales of an Educated Debutante. We'll cover some things that might help you with kids leaving the nest, her best-selling book, and things about autism we all should know. Welcome aboard, and thanks for being here. It's great to have you with us. If you're new around here, I'm Tracy Wilson, a former TV show host who never quite figured out how to stop asking questions. So here we are, where my blog, Tracy Wilson Writing Life, once in a while morphs over to this, Tracy Wilson Talking Life, which is what we're doing today with our guest, Adrian Wood, from the uber popular blog called Tales of an Educated Debutante. Adrian has about 500,000 followers all totaled, which is pretty freaking cool. Welcome aboard. Good to have you here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
Well, how you doing, friend? Really, truly. How are you today?
Bad times around here, Tracy. Bad times.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's that back to school stuff. It's like hyperdrive, right?
I'm not sure what it is. I used to think, May, December, like May was
yeah.
bad. I've
Yeah.
now made a note in my mind. Do not plan anything for the fall because these bigger kids have more fall activities. Like at college, fall weekends, you don't really know about them until they happen. So anyway, I'm just hanging on. I'm mother first and worker second, and it's I don't do particularly either one of them well.
Yeah, well, I think I think a lot of us feel that way because it's a bit like being like Gumby, like you're just pulled in all the directions.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good way to say it.
So I just think there's so much stress around anyway. So it's like, look, let's just do this. We just loosen up. Everybody join in. Just like let it go, loosen up, and just kind of enjoy this time of conversation. Right. Plus, there's the whole college drop-off thing going on, which I really wanted to talk with you about because you have some experience with that, and I do too. We have kids who went off to boarding school for high school, much to my dismay. We've both kind of experienced that, coming home to an empty bedroom, and there's you with Thomas.
I know, and look how much taller he got.
I know. Look at the difference against you.
I've gotten shorter, which is also a possibility.
That's crazy. Yeah, they grow way too fast. But I think there are two kinds of moms. One who can't wait for school to start, or they're just all in with college drop off. And then there are the others who are kind of the mushy hearts like me, who are like, oh, this is going to be so sad without them here. Which one are you?
So I would say I'm option 3. I love having them here. But I love wherever I am, or I really try to. And then when it's time to go to school, I'm excited for them. But I don't wish it away. But I'm happy for them to be out living life.
Yeah. Well, and you guys write in the chat too, in the comments, what you are. Like, what camp do you fall into?
Yeah. I feel like the camp is more like you typically. Like there are a lot of social media posts. People have like their glasses stuffed with tissue. And I'm like, that is not really me. I think it's not that I don't miss them. I also have a lot of children. And so I have to think that maybe the more you have, the more you're like, okay, like with one, I think that'd have to be harder.
Yeah. And with the youngest, it's hard too. So, my youngest son, Jason, who went to Episcopal just ahead of your son, Thomas. And, when he presented this idea of wanting to go to Episcopal, I remember, Adrian, I never do this. Okay. I'm pretty low key chill.
Right.
I think 3 times in my 33-year marriage, I've done this. I took Andrew, my husband, aside, and I said to him, just so you know, there is no way in hell this is going to happen. Don't entertain it. Don't nothing. Don't encourage it. It is not happening. Kid went and applied, got himself a scholarship, and the only reason to say no would have been me, which I knew would breed contention and rebellion and all that stuff. But it's honestly, and I do I'm a little bitter about having lost those 4 years with him. I am. But it's like, I was looking at these old pictures that we've got to put up. I mean, it's like one day he was this cute little first grader in a sailor hat. And the next thing, there he is, freshman year at Episcopal. And I'm smiling there, Adrian. But let me tell you, by the time we went to say goodbye, it was, this picture is like right before we left him, and I'd written a little piece about surviving college dropoff. I was doing everything to not cry in that photo. And I
Right.
do think it's because that thought of coming home to an empty house with no more kids in it. I mean, you do have to kind of mourn the stuff, right?
Yeah. Yes. And feel all the feelings so that they don't own you.
Yeah. But
I, anyway, yeah.
you were telling me when we were talking off camera that, one the other thing that affects your take on this is your brother. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I lost my only sibling. He went off to college. He went to boarding school in the 10th grade and went off to college and had cancer. And so he had to come home the beginning of his sophomore year and, never got to go back. And he died
Mm,
that next summer. And so now that I have a 19-year-old, almost 20, Adam was a month from 20 when he died.
mm.
I'm just so in awe that like what my parents did at the time. I think about myself. I have a 16-year-old daughter. So I was 15 when he died. And I think just how much, as you get older, how much that has shaped my life in
Mm.
so many ways. And I think I'm so appreciative that my kids are off and able to do those things, that my brother didn't get a chance to do, or that my daughter left her room. She's at her sophomore year boarding school, and her room is an absolute, it looks like a tornado went through. And I was showing it. I did a coffee chat this morning with my subscribers, and somebody was like, I would, make her clean it up when she gets back. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm not going to die on the hill. Like, against drugs, alcohol, tattoos currently. But like, I'm so thankful that she wasn't living the life that I was at 16. I was trying to live life as a default only child. I welcome those like silly normal teenage things because I never really had them.
Yeah, and I do think, especially when they get to be teenagers, it's kind of like what's worth fighting about and what isn't, and what's really, really important here and what
Right.
isn't. And I do think boarding school makes you think a little more about that too, don't you?
Yeah, and Tracy, we're different. So I went to boarding school for 4 years. My brother had gone. It was a great experience for him. So my parents really wanted me to go. And the first time they took me to visit, I refused to get out of the car.
Oh, wow.
So I was like you, as a 14-year-old, I sat in the car while they went on the tour.
Wow.
Yet never took it. So my brother, they got smart. They got my brother to fly with me to go visit the boarding school, and he knew a lot of girls there. So of course I loved it then. Nothing like having this cute older brother take you to see a boarding school. So it was genius. My parents are sneaky, sneaky.
And it worked out, I
Um,
guess, right? You loved it?
well, my husband was saying this to my second son, who is home from boarding school now. He went 3 years and he's come home to do a senior year because, we just like a lot of turmoil in our house. But he said, I didn't really love boarding school until I was out of it. And I said,
Interesting.
it is true to some degree. I think you look back and you can see the many positives,
Yeah.
um, but my second son, just it wasn't a good fit for him, and he did what we asked. He tried, and he said, it's not my place, and so he's home.
Yeah,
Um,
and I really admire you for that though, because we can have a tendency as parents to say, like, just stick it out. You've come this far, but
right.
to listen to what they're saying. They're old enough, I think, to have great influence on those kinds of decisions. I remember my father was a professional hockey coach, and he got a job coaching with the Pittsburgh Penguins after my freshman year of high school. And my parents let me choose in Pittsburgh which high school to go to.
Mm,
And it was such an important thing for me to start a new place that I had chosen instead of
right.
them choosing for me. And so
Right.
I admire you giving him that agency to start making the big decisions he'll have to make as an adult.
Well, they're children for a minute. Like we think we're going to have a baby, and we worry about the stroller and the crib bedding. That's back when you put bedding in a crib. Now there's nothing. I think we're so hyper focused on these little people, and you're raising big people really from the
Mm.
get-go, and I want my children to want to come home and see me and to be a part of my life for a long time. I don't So that's my goal, right? Is to help them make decisions. And when they're little, you know what they should eat, when they should go to bed. And, but now there's no easy answer. I always feel like I say, which my parents never said to me, but we will say, we don't know the right thing. If we knew, we would say, that's, we know no drinking and driving. Like we will die on the hill when we know the right thing. But I feel like more and more often, I don't know. I don't know either.
Yeah, and I think you've just sort of lifted this vast amount of pressure off of people by saying that, because as the mom, as the dad, you sort of have this sense like I'm supposed to know.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is, I mean, I have an older one as well. Christian's 27. Jason's going to graduate from Clemson in December. And there's a lot of time along the way when I have not known. How can
As a
you?
total aside, Russell wants to apply to Clemson.
Okay, we need to talk.
Though I
He
forgot
will
that
love
Jason
it.
was there because
Yeah.
but boy, it's a long, can you fly there? It's a long drive. Holy
No, it's just
cow.
like driving to Episcopal. It's no different. Well, for
Okay.
us, I'm in the Raleigh area, but for you,
Well, we
from
want to set up, I really do. So we'll talk about that later, but we
we'll
want
do
to go
that.
visit and do the whole visit thing because
Oh my
he
gosh,
is super
Jace.
interested in it. And I've never been there.
Okay, Jason will hook him up. I'll tell you, I drove there and I'm like, where in the God's green earth are we?
Right.
We're in the middle of nothing. But
It's kind of like a Chapel Hill, right? Like the whole town is the college.
yeah, except Chapel Hill it's bigger and it
Well, you live
has
in Chapel Hill. You're
Durham,
right. Chapel
Raleigh.
Hill has like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Target.
But we'll talk offline. But if anybody else's kid is thinking about Clemson, my guy has loved it from the
Right.
second he set foot on that
Showed
campus. So
up.
he'd be happy to show Russell around.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I love this whole like letting the kids go thing. Like, I want to give people who are struggling, because it's okay if you're not struggling, and it's okay. It will be okay if you are struggling. I want to give them some things that they can hold on to if they are struggling. Do you have anything for them?
You know, I think the other piece of the puzzle, as you know, is we have a fourth child, and he is almost 12. Amos just got a video of him at school reading, and
Oh.
he's in fifth grade this year. And so there's a tremendous amount of heart. I think my heart it knows he's so my heartbeat that
Mhm.
my other people are, I'm like, I mean, how could you not think he's like the cutest thing on the
Oh my
planet?
gosh. Look, I mean, honestly, at any age, he's so cute, that little
But when he was
blondie.
a baby, he was so cute. He had those glasses, from the time he was like 6 months old.
Oh,
But I
love
think
him.
that a lot of what I've learned parenting him has helped me parent my older children. And so if the goal is independence, right? And I will say to, you always have friends who are micromanaging every aspect of their children's
Oh,
lives.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I will say, like, you're not going to be there for the job interview. And as I've got this my almost 20-year-old sophomore in college, even just when he was navigating the fraternity route, I had a friend who was very nice, but she was like, "What fraternity do you want him to do?" And I was like, "I have no opinion, because I'm not in the fraternity. I don't know anything about the fraternities, and I want him to find his people." And I think when you micromanage, not saying that parent did, but if you're micromanaging things like that, it's just not helping them be independent.
Mm-mm.
So I will use this example. Yesterday, I got an email from Russell's soccer coach, and it was to four different people, and it said, if you don't get this app, it was like an app the coach wants them to have to read comments about their play, you're not going to play in the game today. And I know Russell had been working on getting the app because I had helped him like 2 hours. And my initial thing was like, I'm going to call that coach and I'm going to be like, we're trying. And I was like, no, you're not. Because at the end of the day, Russell should have gone to the coach already and explained all this.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping my mouth shut. And I went to the game and I wasn't sure he was going to play. And he was like, don't come. And I was like, no, I'm coming, because I wanted him to feel this pressure of like, people are here to watch me. And I didn't get my, what done.
Yep.
Because what better place to learn it than in varsity soccer versus a job interview?
100%. And
Like, let them
it's,
fail now because there's less consequences.
yeah. And I'm also a big believer that if I jump in and do things for them that they're capable of doing for themselves, that basically the message I'm sending is, I don't really think you're capable of doing this. And that's
Hmm.
completely false. It's a lie. So that's what I'll say to them. Like, I could do that, but I know you're quite capable of doing it yourself. And sometimes that's really hard. There have been instances as they get older and older where they need, they want to be rescued from something. And you're
Mhm.
like, I'll consult with you. I'll give you ideas. But this one is yours to fix. And always they figure it out. They're smart. And
Mhm.
when they have to be resourceful, they are.
Right. I struggle with a little bit. So there's two things I'm just going to ask you. So, what do you think about cooking breakfast for a teenager in the morning?
Yeah, for me, that was always like a Sunday morning thing, like a
Okay.
weekend thing.
Hmm.
But my guys were not big breakfast eaters on the weekdays either. So, and yeah, they were really not big breakfast. So it didn't really come up. But packing lunches, like, I'm sorry, when you're of a certain age, you can pack your own lunch. Like, mommy
Pack your
does not need
lunch.
to pack your lunch for you. And
Hmm.
like laundry, when Jason went to Episcopal at 14, he said, Mom, I'm the only one on my floor who knows how to do laundry, because I had them start helping with laundry at 12. That was like,
Uh huh.
okay, we
Right.
all contribute around here, you
Right.
know? And so it's good. I think jobs too, they build in that, like, I feel good about myself because I can do this thing. I can help in that way.
Right. Right. It's funny. So I've made breakfast for Russell the last 2 days. I've never cooked people breakfast. I mean, my husband always did breakfast on the weekends, but I think for me, it's like a love language thing. Like he, this child particularly wants so little from me that it's like I can, and doing laundry is a love language to me since they've been off at school. Like, because they do their own laundry so often when they're home, I really like doing it
Yeah, and
because I love that my mom does mine when I go stay with her.
she does.
Yes, like if we go stay with them in Florida,
Mm,
she does our laundry. And
that is so sweet.
it's just so restful. It's like one thing to have a break from, you know? So weird to me, but I'm like, it's a love language for me. Anyway.
At the end of the day, Adrian, here's the thing, right? It used to be when I was a young mom, there were books to read and friends to talk to about parenting, right?
Right.
And now then the internet comes along and social media, and now there are 2,765,000 opinions about how to do things. And
Hmm.
I just think we just need to kind of sit with ourselves and say, what is the right thing for me? What is the right thing for my child and my family? And like, trust that you're not an idiot. And if you are
Right. Right.
thoughtful and you care, that you're going to come up with what's right for you, because there are always these trends of what you're supposed to do and not
Hmm.
supposed to do. And they come and they go. But at the end of the day, it's your family, right? So if you
Yeah.
want to cook breakfast for your kid and your kid likes it,
Yeah.
great. Cook
Yeah.
breakfast. I,
But I would say at the same point, I also think it's important for them to know how to cook. Russell came home yesterday at 9:40 in the morning. Where he's back at high school. Did not have a class yesterday. He has a college class 2 days a week. So he prefers to cook for himself. He likes his cooking better than mine. So he was cooking chicken fajitas at 9:40 a.m.
Oh, wow. Hopefully he made enough for dinner. So you don't have to
Yeah,
cook
no,
tonight,
I know, right? That would be
right?
the cleaning up thing. We're not really good at that yet. We're
Yeah,
working on that.
one step at a time. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like anything in life, I mean, and what the heck do I know? You know what I mean? We're all trying to figure it out. That's the thing. We're all just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But it just strikes me that it's like so much else in life. It's just all about balance. You do too much for them, it's not good. You do nothing for them, and you kind of miss out on the way of
Hmm.
connecting, like you making breakfast for Russell. So just kind of constantly or occasionally checking in with yourself about is this balanced?
Right.
Am I allowing
I
for both?
think I think one thing as people are dropping children off at college, you look back, you've done it twice, I've done it once, but 2 years in a row. But I'm like, I think figuring out your children's communication style is something that
Mm,
it's taken me a while to figure that out. Like one child might prefer to call on a Sunday night, or Thomas calls while he's eating, which is not particularly wonderful to talk to someone while they're eating. But like I talk to him while he's eating, and then Russell does not like to talk on the phone, but he will text you immediately if you text him. and then Blair kind of as a late night caller. And I kind of like to go to sleep, but so the last couple years I stay up later because they call at like 10. Um, so kind of meeting them where they are, I think is important. And they might, in saying to them, hey, would you rather me call you or text you? Like, how do you like, what do you like?
Yeah.
Because they're going to figure it out too, especially if they've never been away from home before.
Yeah, the bottom line is you want them communicating with you. So if you insist on it being your way, you're probably less likely to get that result than if you kind of let them take the lead on that and sort of get it wherever you
Yes.
can, right? And however you can.
Yeah.
I,
If
I
I
think,
call Thomas, he always says, I'm playing pool. Can I call you back? I said, well, you said that the last 3 days. No one's called me back.
yeah, he's with a girl.
Oh, God. I didn't even think about that. I hope he's
He's
playing
totally
pool.
with a girl. Come on, mom. You're
Really?
totally.
Why
Oh
wouldn't
my
he just
gosh.
say I'm at the library? That's
Yeah,
what I
I
would
don't
say.
know. At least it sounds academic, right? It's an academic
Yeah.
excuse as opposed to like
Yeah.
a
If you're going to
hustler
lie, go
excuse.
all in.
Yeah, right. I think one of the things that helped me a lot, especially with Jason leaving early, going to Episcopal. I mean, Adrian, I'm just going to admit this. When that acceptance letter came in, around him, it was like, oh, congratulations. It's so amazing. I'm really excited for you. And he walked out the door to go to school that spring of eighth grade year. And it's embarrassing. I sat and sobbed as if like I was never going to see him again for the rest of my natural life. I cried
Right.
so much. My eyes were puffy. I missed an appointment I was supposed to go to, forgot all about it. And I finally at the end of it said,
Oh,
all right, God, this is clearly his path.
right.
And I'm going to need your help. And so I need you to like help me plan how this is going to go and give
Right.
me something to ground me. And this like thing popped into my head. It became a mantra. It's not about you, Tracy. It's about him. It's not about you, Tracy. It's about him. Adrian,
Right.
I must have from spring until fall, I must have said that 1,000 times.
Hmm.
And it really helped. Like when I would get, because really, if we are thinking about them, we'll be nothing but excited. The sadness comes for our loss, and our
Right.
adjustment. We
Right.
spend 18 years revolving around them, and then all of a sudden we're just supposed to stop, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I think filling the calendar, I had fun things every weekend for September, the whole month of September.
Mm.
And that really helped too, because it made me start paying attention to my life and,
Right.
you
Right.
know, thinking like, what am I doing with myself? While he goes off to do this great thing, what am I going to do? And that's
Right.
around the time that I really started blogging and getting back into writing and freelancing and that
Hmm.
kind of thing. I liked what your friend Carrie Cariello said in the book. We're going to talk about Adrian's book. You guys, I don't even have someone in my life with autism. Her youngest, for those of you who don't know her yet, though I'm sure everybody does, has autism. And she and two friends have written this great book, Autism Out Loud, which we're going to get into. But Carrie Cariello said she practiced this thing, and I love it because it's physical, where she put her hands like a W for we. Let me pull that back. And then practice like separating them into two eyes.
Mm.
And I think having something like that that is whatever grounds you, whatever like reminds you that we're doing what we're built to do here is
Right.
really important.
Right. Right.
So, do
Yeah,
you
it makes sense.
do you think having Amos, having the fourth of your four children with autism has also given you a different take on college drop off and boarding school drop off?
Well, yeah, he's Amos isn't going to go to those. He's not on that. I wrote something the other day, and I said, parenting typical children is like following the rainbow to the pot of gold. Everybody knows what's at the end of the rainbow. You ride the rainbow. You know what colors are there, and everybody's. I mean, Russell might be home this year. You're going to have some things, but you're still on riding this rainbow. And with Amos, it's like shut your eyes, put on these headphones, and somebody puts you in a Black Hawk helicopter, and then they're just going to dump you out.
Oh
And you don't
gosh.
know, are you over the ocean? Are you in another country? Is it dark? Is it how far are you going to fall? So there's so much unknown that I kind of I'm a planner to some degree, which is funny because I'm very laid back, but I do like knowing what's next. And so I enjoy this kind of traditional path that they're following for the most part, where Amos is such a big unknown,
Hmm.
and every year. So I do try to say, like, be thankful where you are. That's kind of my thing of like, be thankful for today. Here's where we are today. Like next year we're in middle school. And you have to plan for the future too.
Sure.
So there's that fine line of planning for the future, or maybe doing everything for your children versus making them eggs in the morning. Like, what's the line of worry and fear and planning? For me, I he's the glue that holds them together in a way that, sort of how I said my own childhood of, I'd lost this brother. Now I'm a default only child. I knew that I had to do some things because it was all on me.
Mm,
Like there was no, and I think my children, to some degree, they're not going to be fighting about money when my husband and I are gone.
right.
One, there'd probably be no money left. But two, they've got bigger fish to fry. They have Amos that they're going to all three being sharing the care for to some degree. And our plan is to have Amos settled in some sort of space, um, far way before we're gone, so that when something happens to my husband or I, both of us, that they're not trying to figure out what to do with Amos. That's really, really important to us. Because I just don't want to put that on them. And I think siblings feel the weight of that. So yeah, I want them to enjoy him as their brother, and I want them, but they have a responsibility, just like I did as the default only child. They have a responsibility that they didn't ask for. Um, and it's a lovely person who's healthy and alive, and it's great, but it's still hard. You know, he's still
Yeah.
hard.
And one of the things that a couple of you mentioned in the book that was really resonated is this notion of like, I don't want my child to have to go through finding like a new place to live and settling in and adjusting to me being gone all at the same time. That's so much for a neurotypical person, let alone a person with
Right.
autism.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one. You don't want your child to lose their home and their family in the same day, I think.
Yeah.
And a friend of Kate's, I think, had said it first, the way that we talk about it in the book. And the chapter in the book, Forever, what does forever look like? Carrie, we wrote the book, Kate Swenson, Carrie Carrill, and I all have boys on the spectrum, very different ages, different birth order, different places on the spectrum. And we Kate and I were like, we do not want to write that chapter. So when you write a book with three people, I've never written a book by myself. It's great because you can like bounce ideas off each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's how the chapters happen. Like, what do you think about this chapter? I really wanted a grief chapter, an education chapter. Somebody wanted caregiving versus motherhood, and then we kind of it had to be like a vote of two, right? If the chapter was going to make it. But somehow Carrie won the forever chapter. Kate and I were highly against the forever chapter. And we had to acknowledge, well, we don't like the forever chapter because that's the hardest part of this journey for us is
Mm,
forever. And I think Kate in the beginning of the chapter says, I didn't want to write this chapter.
yeah, she did say
And I
that.
think it's important because it's really you'll hear a lot of families that have children with disabilities will say to you, so and so is always going to live with us. And I remember Kate saying that to me. She probably would admit it. But I remember she said it to me, and you have to be kind of good friends to say this. But I said, no, he's not. You're not going to be alive forever. And only a parent of a child with a disability
Mm,
could say that to another parent of a child
yeah.
with a disability. But it's true. They cannot always live with you because you are not, it's not realistic. And the other thing I think that's really important to me is I want Amos to have his own life. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want him to just be a tag along to my life or his siblings' lives. Like, I want him to have his own life. And just if Blair said, well, he can live with me, like, well, what about Amos? Like, what does he want? And I don't even think he knows, but like he's independent. I mean, he likes our neighbor at the beach, he likes me to go to her house and he won't walk with me so he can walk in 2 minutes later.
It's
You
good
know,
though.
like,
You're giving him a bit at a time, and that's
yeah.
important for him.
Yesterday I said to him, it's the first day of school. Do you want mommy to walk you in or do you want to go by yourself? And he said, go by yourself. And I said, okay, do you remember how to go? Like we had practiced last week. You go straight. He said, yes. And he got out and walked in, all by himself. And I'm encouraging him. I got rid of his rollaway bed in our bedroom last night. He was not thrilled with that at all. But I'm like, I'm sick of this freaking rollaway bed in my room. He's almost 12. If I have to sleep with him in his own room, that's what I'm going to do. So I did last night.
How did it go?
Well, it went okay. He, about 3, I woke up, I went and got in our bed, but somehow we've like have no electricity in our bedroom. So it was very quiet in there. My husband was moving all the furniture, trying to figure out what GFI was out. This is, our life in a
Oh yeah.
nutshell.
Oh yeah.
So I got in bed and just had the noise app on my phone. Thomas went somewhere else in this house and slept. And Amos came in a couple hours later and said, get in mommy's bed. And I said, okay. And he was like, turn the fan on. I was like, there's no electricity. So he went back, got in his own bed. So there you go.
How about that? Oh, sometimes
Maybe this is
happenstances
the,
are,
maybe it's, yeah, it was the God wink. No electricity will keep Amos out.
yeah, well, and it set him in motion in a different direction, which is
Yes.
really great.
Yes.
You mentioned your co-authors for Autism Out Loud, which congratulations, New York Times bestseller.
Thank
I,
you. That did not
wow.
happen by accident, Tracy. There was a tremendous amount of hustling. I might as well have been on a pole for what I did to have that happen.
Do you want to talk about that?
So when we wrote this book, we each have social media platforms, um, and and I thought, I really want a New York Times bestseller. Like, who doesn't want
Of
that?
course.
And I'm the type of person that I am a real believer in owning what you want and saying it aloud. And I think there's a tendency in this culture, and I think it gets worse and worse all the time, of people don't want to say where they want to go to college. They don't want to tell you an SAT score. They don't want to admit anything because maybe if it doesn't happen, it makes them look like a failure or makes their children look like
Hmm.
a failure.
Yeah, or it'll jinx me. I don't want to jinx it. That whole thing too, right?
I don't think that's it. I think it's like I have to look good at all cost. So for me to say like, oh, I weigh 180 pounds, or I made a 980 on the SAT, like those things don't determine who I am. They don't own me. Are they really that important? So little Thomas, my oldest son, wanted to go to Chapel Hill, or he thought he did. And I said, own it. Say, I want to go there. And if you don't get in, then you just say, I didn't get in. Like if you keep things like that a secret, you're giving them so much weight that they shouldn't have.
Okay, so I'm going to say it out loud.
I'm really passionate about this.
I
It's
this
really important to me. And I might be wrong, but I
well,
believe it.
I think this conversation has so many multifaceted uh, benefits, and for me, you saying that to me is a benefit for me because I'll just say it. I'll just claim it. I've written a manuscript. I worked hard on it. It's a beautiful, true story that will make you believe anything's possible. It's like
Right.
Bad News Bears team meets grief recovery, and it all kind of comes together in this gorgeous story. And I'm
Right.
looking for a publisher right now for it. So I'm going to put it out there. So there we go. It's out there in the
Yeah.
interweb.
Well, I'll
And
give you my agent's email and you can send it to her.
seriously,
Yeah. Oh, I'm happy to. I mean, I kind of the same
thank
way. Like,
you.
oh, you're welcome. You're
It's
welcome.
good. I mean, people have read it, professionals have read it. And I've written my whole life, so it's not like a stretch to do a story, but
Yeah.
I've never published a book. So, thank
Well,
you.
neither had Adrian. And I might not ever publish one again. So I'm glad to support you in your publishing.
Yeah. Well, this is, we're going to, okay.
Well, you
I'm
already done the
making,
hard part. You wrote it.
yeah, yeah. And doing a true story is hard because it's like all got to be true. And I was a journalist for
Yeah.
a long time, and integrity is important. And if I say it was a moonlit night, it better have been a moonlit night. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
slog.
Right.
But so I'm making my offline list, and folks, maybe we'll report back to you about how Clemson works out, how book publishing works out. We'll do a follow up later and see what the
And
heck
Carrie
happened.
Curiello self-published all her books before she wrote this one with us. So she would be a good person to talk
Oh,
to too. And I
interesting.
think she might self-publish again. She's a real fan.
Oh, that's so, yeah, I'd be
Hmm.
interested in hearing her thoughts for sure as
Hmm.
well. Yeah, thank you
She'd
for
be a good
that.
person to just come on and talk about that. I think that's a process people really want to chat about. So anyway, so what I was saying about the book. So I'm a real believer in owning things.
Yeah.
And so I said to Kate and Carrie, I want to be on the New York Times bestseller list. And I think Kate was probably like, oh, let's not jinx ourselves, whatever. But I was like, no, in order for that to happen, because it's kind of secretive anyway, it's not necessarily, it's not all numbers. Like the USA Today list is pure numbers. So we were the first week, we were 40 on the USA Today list, and we were, I can't remember now, 6 or 7 on the New York Times list. So we knew USA Today was numbers, New York Times was not. The New York Times looks at where you're selling, they don't tell you
Hmm.
who they're looking for. They want a variety. I think topic matters. I think we were the very first book on the New York Times bestseller list with the word autism in the title. Um,
Wow.
it was right around when RFK, all the autism stuff was coming out. So
Yep.
it was, such a gift for us for it to be very time relevant. Um, but we got on, I mean, I spent a whole weekend. I was at Episcopal for Parents Weekend. We knew the list. It was like everything you sell between a Tuesday and a Monday night counts towards the list. So all weekend we were hustling. I mean, we were like, if you buy a book today, we're going to send you a signed book plate. We were doing giveaways. I mean, then, months later, we have hundreds of book plates we're having to send off, and it's horrible. But people were buying 5 and 6 books, which is different than other books, right? Because we're
Yeah.
like, you can give it to your teacher, you can give it to your neighbor, you can give it to your priest or, your doctor. So we had a lot of repeat buyers, I think. And we had a lot of people that bought because we said, we want to make the New York Times list. And they felt invested in the process.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I could see an author not saying that just because it sounds like, "Hey, do this for me." And
You're kind
but
of dorky, but we were like, this book is good. We want
it
people to
is
have it.
good. By the way, y'all, it is. I don't have anyone directly in my life with autism. I read the book because it's Adrian's book, and I there's so much in this story, Adrian, that is um, it's important we understand others, not just
Right.
ourselves and our own little circle. But it's also there's so many universal things in this too, and one of those is community. This whole thing of you three women each individually looking for community in this place of aloneness in
Hmm.
having a child with autism. So, I mean, how did that make a difference for you? Both the community that you created with Tales of an Educated Debutante, and then this community of these three women who are now dear friends, and being able to give this sort of gift to the world about, hey, folks, this is what it's really like.
And let me just remind me of that. I do want to say that we almost didn't put autism in the title. The original title was Life Out Loud. And we really contemplated. And at the end of the day, we decided we don't want anybody that has an autism diagnosis in their life. Everybody's going to search autism book. And we wanted our book to come up. And we were concerned if we didn't do that, it might not. But on the other hand, we were concerned that will this book only be purchased by or read by people that have autism in their life? Because I had a woman say to me, well, I heard you wrote a book and it was wonderful, but I'm so thankful, we don't have autism in our life. So, I mean, it's just appreciative. And I said, okay. I said, have you ever been to the Harris Teeter? And she said, yes, I go to the Tita and I go to Trader Joe's and I go to Wellspring. And I said, so if you've been to the grocery store, you have seen someone with autism. Have you ever seen somebody walking around by themselves, or maybe they're talking to themselves, or maybe they're working or bagging groceries, or maybe they're laying on the floor if they're Amos? She was like, well, yes. I said, that's autism. She was like, oh, well, I'll buy 3 copies. So people don't even know what they don't know, right?
This
Like
is
we,
this is it. This is I can't say it enough that I didn't know until I read this book that I needed to learn what I needed to learn. And I've always had an empathetic heart, but
Yes,
I
you do.
feel like I understand it a little differently. And it's important because of those grocery store encounters. And this is one of my questions that I had for you today. So I'm in Target and I see a child with a developmental disability having a meltdown with his mom. What's easier on you? And I'm saying this not you, Universal, because you can't
Right,
answer for everyone, but for
right.
you, Adrian Wood. Is it easier if I give you a smile and a nod and just be like, "Hey, can I give you a hand? Can I do anything?" Or is it easier if I just leave you to it and I just don't even look and walk on, which is not what I'm inclined to do,
Right.
but I don't have the experience to know what is really probably the most helpful thing.
Yeah, I think always err on the side of being annoying. Like always, even if you just say, you got this. But I think offering help is important because somebody recently had said to me, um, I had somebody on, we were talking about suicide, and this woman said, nobody ever asked me if I had considered taking my own life. And since I've learned that, I've asked a couple people that. And what I didn't know, I thought, well, that question is like mean. It would make somebody mad. But if you're in that space or in a place where you could be in that space, the answer when I asked the first person, she said, no, but thank you for asking. And I think the same thing. I met a mom this summer. Her son is in his 20s, has a disability, and we go to the same pool in the summer. And I, went over and introduced myself, and she said, she kind of looked quizzically at me, and she said, I thought you were coming over because you saw what happened this morning. And I said, no, no, I wasn't here this morning. I've just seen y'all at the pool, and I have my son, and I saw your son. And I said, but what happened this morning? And she said, well, we were coming to the pool, and there was thunder. And thunder, like, means the pool shuts down, and nothing
Mm,
like taking your person with autism somewhere and having, it's like Wally World's closed. Like, it's bad times. Like,
mm,
we don't go to the pool if we think it might thunder because it could really be a problem. And I said, well, what happened? She goes, well, my husband was in the gym and I made the mistake of trying to take my son with me to get him. And I said to her, so if I had been here, what would have been helpful? And she said, if you had said to me, how can I help? I think I would have said, go get my husband. And that has really changed my answer to you because I think, say, is there anything I can do? And if somebody says no, thank you, then you haven't messed up their day.
no.
But like if I had said that to her, if I'd been there and she would have said, yeah, my husband's in the gym, you know, go get him, that could have really been helpful. So I think it's important. And say hello. I had a friend, they lived in Chapel Hill, and she was like, we were walking, and her daughter is pretty significant disabilities. And she was like, they were riding their bikes on the sidewalk. I was pushing her in her adaptive stroller. My daughter was riding her bike. And the dad was like, oh, everybody get out of the way, which was nice. But like, I wish they had just stopped and said, hey, it's a good day for a bike ride,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And I really, since she told me that years ago, I'm almost annoying. I mean, I chase people that have children with disabilities. I mean, I'm like, oh, hi, we were at Target, and my daughter doesn't even get embarrassed anymore. Their son had this neat contraption. I was like, that's really awesome to hold an iPad. Like, I've never seen that. We have a special person at home. And my daughter was like, instead of being embarrassed, she was like, yeah, he's a terrible shopper. And this child was being good. But I think sometimes families like ours feel invisible because people don't know what to say. So they don't say anything. They're not being unkind. They don't know. So, yeah, talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you just have to dip your toe in the water despite not feeling comfortable or despite feeling like I hope I don't say the wrong thing. I remember when I
Yeah,
started coaching Special Olympics, I had no experience with people who with developmental disabilities, and I wasn't quite sure how to be in that role. I was like, well, I don't
right,
know what to do. I
right.
don't, how,
Oh, I bet that was something.
Well, because it's like, do I talk to them just like I talk to someone else, like an
Right.
adult? Do I talk to them like I would talk to a seventh grader, like how,
Right.
and what can I expect of them? Are my expectations high enough? Are they too high? But you just have to kind of dip your toe in and then know that you're going to figure it out in time. It's like if you go to
Mhm.
France, you're not going to walk into Paris and feel like you're right at home instantly. You got to give things a chance, right?
Right.
But I just think sometimes it's, you don't want to impose, you don't want to intrude, you don't want to make someone feel like self-conscious. But the truth of the matter is, I imagine if your child's having a meltdown in Target, like with when my kids were little, you feel self-conscious anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
no
Yeah.
one's gonna make you feel any more self-conscious than you feel when your kid's having a
Right. Yeah.
meltdown.
We don't have as, yesterday we went to the soccer game and I thought, oh, this could go bad. There were gnats, we hate gnats. And you're loud. We have a service dog, and so she really helps a tremendous amount. We've noticed for games and things. But my son Russell said, I didn't know y'all were coming. You brought the dog. I mean, I don't need all this attention. And sometimes I'm like, Russell, no one was looking at you. They might have been paying attention to us. And I say to him, because he hasn't quite gotten the memo, but I'm like, if we're not out in public, how do people know how to react? And what I've seen is really, just being back at our public high school with other families, and they're like, Amos did great. They're getting used to, like, they're not ringing the cowbells really loud. They know that, like, does him in. Yeah.
Yeah, we've
You
got
see
that.
us, and last night he knew the buzzer was going to buzz. I hate a buzzer. I would like buzzers to be like, I would like to get rid of all the buzzers in the world at games. But last night I was like, get your hands over your ears and watch that clock. So that gave him an activity.
That's good. I mean, it's incredible that you are blessed to be able to count these small
I
strides.
love that you just
Small
have those
strides.
pictures. Like you have like reading my mind.
Yeah, well, we try to be prepared around here.
Oh,
Our
I
wonderful
need Tracy in
producer.
my life every day.
You need Glenn Dreyfus, the producer of this thing, and yeah,
I might. I might.
he's the brain trust in this operation.
Oh, it's great.
But
Great.
what I really like about your writing on Tales of an Educated Debutante, as well as in the book, is that it's not sugarcoating. There's none of that. I mean, you even wrote in the book about Blair, your daughter, saying in a moment of frustration when she was a little kid, that Amos ruined everything because it was
Yes.
because of Amos you had to leave somewhere, and
Right.
and you admit. Like, I really admire the honesty of this. You admit that in the quiet of your mind only, that you thought she was right, like, you agreed in that
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
Yes.
how do
Yes.
you keep from getting stuck there, though? How do you keep from because it's day to day, and we'll talk about the day to day, but it's not an easy road.
Yeah. I think, it's one time we were having a hard time in our marriage and we went to our rector, and he just had a lot family, complicated things. And he said, this weekend I want you to take a cup of water and I want you to fill it halfway up and I want you to put it on the counter. And I don't want you to talk about problems or what's happening, but every time you look at that glass, I want you to think about how your life is half full, not half empty. And I think that kind of thinking is not a natural state. It's almost like
Mhm.
forgiveness, right? Like I think if we think, well, I can't forgive. Well, forgiveness can take 5 years. You're kind of faking it till you make it. And I think life with Amos is like that. Like years ago, he was starting at our public school. He was 3. I mean, he's 11. This is his 10th year in public school. And the math doesn't make sense, but I swear he went on his 3rd birthday. This is the 10th year. But anyway, my son Thomas, when we told the kids like he's going to start preschool at school, the other 2 were little enough, maybe they were 5 and 4, that they were like, oh, yay. And little Thomas, who's really just always been a tender heart anyway, he left the room and we finished dinner and I went and found him and he was crying in we had like a front den in our house.
Aw.
And I said, why are you crying? And he said, I just want him to be like everybody else. And
Mm.
I said, so do I. This is not what I signed up for. I signed up for this fourth child, run and tumble, keep up with the siblings. I knew I had signed up for it, and this was not who I got.
Yeah.
And I said, if you could trade him, would you? And I really didn't know what he was going to say. And he said, well, no, I've gotten used to him. And it's true. That is like him in a nutshell. Like he is, you take your people, right? Like your family, your life, they're your people. Like they're not perfect, but they're yours. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of how we are with him. It's what's interesting is it's really been hard for my dad, probably harder than anybody. And reading our book, he said, I just didn't really know what it was like. And I think that's
Wow. W-
right.
Your dad, the
My
grandfather.
dad has been with us on vacation but just really didn't know. And maybe it was my fault. Maybe I was trying to smooth everything over around him all the time. But I think he struggles with like, this is really hard all the time. And, I think where I say to dad is like, it's hard. And last night, I mean, if I hadn't had Amos, we could have had dinner with my parents after the soccer game. I could have talked to them. We couldn't, it wasn't a possibility. Now, tonight I have a babysitter, so I can go to the game, but they won't be there, because I'm always trying to juggle children and everybody's needs, um, but I think it's just like, boy, this is my life and it's not the one I planned, but it's a really good one. And I'm so appreciative of just so many things. My brother died at 19 and he didn't have autism. He was healthy, but like there are just no promises that everything is going to go the way we want.
Yeah. And
It's just not.
in this
Stuff is
kind
going to happen.
inevitably going to happen. It's
And
just a
are you
matter of
ready for it? Do you have grit to get through the hard stuff?
well, and do you have grit's important and having something bigger than you to lean on, a community of
Yeah,
people, God, whatever that is that for you that
right.
where you can like you're not just standing on your own because there are some circumstances where your own strength is
No.
not necessarily enough.
No. And I did that, Tracy, I did that and I talk about that in our grief chapter, but when my brother died, I kind of had this I was 15 like, well, I had this very, I was ready with my answer. God is going to let every bad thing happen to everybody. Everybody gets one bad thing and mine's gone. So I've gotten mine
Oh
out of the way.
yes.
This was going to be a
Hmm.
wonderful life, now that I'd gotten this bad thing out of the way.
If only it worked like
And
that.
2 years later, my very best friend got diagnosed with cancer.
I've read your
And we
blogs on
were
it.
we were in high school and I was like, somebody has changed the rules. Like this is not what's happened. And so I think really realizing like, boy, we're just, we're life is fragile and wonderful and beautiful and I better look for all the good that's there for the taking. So I don't look back and think, boy, I missed it. And even with Amos, I think, what if something were to happen to him tomorrow or one of my unruly teenagers tomorrow? Would I think I did the best I could? I lived with gratitude for what I had. My dad, it's funny, my dad said later, and I don't know what we were talking about, but he said, I have one regret with Adam. And he said, I wished I hadn't worried about his weight. My brother was very chubby when he was little. And I spent a lot of time worrying about that.
Hmm.
And Adam ended up being 6'4", tall, cute guy.
Yeah.
But he was like, it was such a waste of time, and I think that sometimes with Amos, like, I can't just sit and worry about stuff because it could be a waste. And that's important to know.
It's very important. I mean, two things I take away from what you've just said. One is, I'm not sure that any of us escape the conclusion that your dad had with Adam, because we none of us does this perfectly. So,
Yeah, yeah,
parents who are wanting to get through this and think it did it perfectly, just release yourself from that kind of pressure and unrealistic expectation, because none of us does this perfectly at
right,
all. And then secondly
right.
is that whole thing of gratitude. Like, I really am a firm believer. I write a lot about gratitude. I speak about gratitude. It has saved me in some of my worst moments in life, some of my
Uh,
hardest circumstances, because in the midst of the proverbial poop hitting the fan, if you can find something good to hold on to, I don't
right,
care if it's that you flick on the light switch and the light comes on. You turn on the shower and the water's actually hot. Yeah,
right.
it doesn't matter what it is,
You don't
but
live in North Korea. I say that all the time. I mean,
I
you
mean,
got it good.
right? There is so much goodness. And if you get to be really good at counting those things every day, if you get to be really good at
Mhm.
at noticing blessings even in the storm, I do think it's like, well, I call it water wings in stormy seas. It's just
Oh,
enough to help you keep one nostril
I
above
like
water,
that. Right,
right?
right.
You just got to keep one nostril above water. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So, given what you've just said about your dad, what's your advice to? I mean, the advice is really read the book, you guys, because there's just so much in it for all of us. But what's your advice to grandparents, aunties, uncles, close friends, neighbors who are surrounding a child with autism?
Um, well, yes, I would read Autism Out Loud. I think it will really give you a perspective
Yeah.
that would be helpful, and maybe a perspective that people aren't. We're very vulnerable, and it's really hard to be vulnerable. It's like taking all your clothes off in front of a bunch of people,
Hmm.
and we do it not for attention or for pity, but we do it because we want people to really understand what it's like. And I think from my own background, I never knew anybody with a disability. I didn't know. I had no clue. I saw families like mine and I felt pity. I felt awe, but I felt pity. And either I wasn't listening or people weren't talking, maybe a little of both. But I don't pity is not one of the things that we need. We need inclusion and friendship and welcoming. I mean, just the other night we went out to dinner. Amos has just started to be able to go out to dinner some,
Nice.
and a little fella came over and said hello from school that I didn't know, and I'm sure his mom. So when I tell a story about somebody came and said hello, then maybe somebody reads it and says, "Boy, that's important to go say hello." And it becomes like a domino effect, I think, is what we want to happen is talking and smiling and, you know, just saying, "I see you." I see you.
And not judging. I mean, I
Yeah,
think
not
that's
judging.
huge.
Yeah, not judging, not judging. And people don't judge because I was a judger too, probably. It was ignorance. It wasn't because I
Sure.
thought I was amazing. I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know. And you're not going to know. But I do think the more you're open and honest and you're own how you're feeling. Like I might not have the tissues on the Facebook post, but I like that people are willing to own that. I mean, I think it's really important because anytime you're owning how you're feeling, you're helping other people not feel alone.
Yeah. Let's give some props to the followers. So, Adrian, you and I, we need to come up with a different word. Followers, it's like a cult or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's like
I,
subscribers,
I
followers,
let's
members. I mean,
call them like
members sound like private parts. I
uh,
mean, it's
our
terrible. I
social media buddies. I don't know, but what?
buddies.
No, our little lovies, our social
Yeah,
media lovies.
yeah.
That's what we'll call you. It sounds like a different kind of website, maybe. But what difference has it made for you having these people who consistently tune into you to the tune of roughly 500,000 people listening to your videos and reading your words? Um, what difference has that made for you in your life?
Well, I think two things. One, it helps me like learn to just let people's opinions roll off, because the more people you reach, the more you're going to get, opinions. But I'm putting myself out there, so it's not like it's shocking that people are going to be like, I don't really like that,
Sure.
your hair or whatever. I don't
Sure.
care. But I think it makes me happy. Nothing makes me feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing than a message from a mom who's in her 40s. I had taken my older three to Alaska. My parents took us. I left Amos at home for 2 weeks, and it was really hard. And I was like, ugh, people are going to judge me. I'm leaving him at home, but I want to give these other children of mine experiences that are normal experiences. And we had 7 years that I didn't have a child with a disability. So unlike Kate and Carrie, we kind of had this other life first.
Hmm.
And we were really living it in a very deliberate way. Maybe not Alaska, but we were always going. We're just people, we like to be out and about. And we went to Alaska, and this mom reached out to me, and she had two young children. And she said, my mother and I are going to Charlotte for the weekend. They lived maybe in Raleigh or somewhere. And she said, my brother is 48 and my mom has never left him for a night. So my mother and I have never been anywhere on our own. And my mom said, when you went to Alaska, if the debutante can go, so can I.
I love that.
And it was like, wow, like this is why it's important. I'll take all the criticism in the world for that sister who had never gotten to go with her mom on an overnight trip, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is the thing. This is why we do what we do, because you get that one DM that says, I really needed to hear this today. It really made a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, have there not been times that you're like, what am I even doing here? Like, I don't know. Is this
Yes,
even making a
yes.
difference, right?
Uh,
Does this really
when I
even
got
matter?
sued twice, and I'm like,
You
my husband's
did?
like, oh, we don't have, oh, it's expensive to get sued. Even when you win, it's expensive.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we need to, have you talked about that online?
Well, not in a while, because the cases finally got dismissed. One, I'm trying to get some money out of those fools, and I hadn't yet. But anyway,
Oh
yeah,
my
I
God, that's a
mean,
good conversation to have.
$25,000 in cash after taxes. Yeah.
I read and watch your stuff, and I'll be tuning in for that. That's
Oh gosh.
holy moly. Um, you mentioned in the book that when Amos was little and starting school, that someone asked you what his strengths were, and that had never happened before. And it's such an important question for all kids, autism or not. Maybe something for parents and grandparents to ask too, as well as educators. What are your strengths?
Yeah. What are
Um,
your strengths?
yeah, what difference did that make in terms of how you think his school year was handled based on what his strengths were? And how
Well,
did that make you
educate
feel too as a mom? It's a good
eh,
thing, right?
you kind of. Mm. Sometimes it
Yeah.
just makes me like want to cry. I hate the question, what are your dreams? Like that makes me want
Uh,
to like throttle people,
yeah.
because it's a very vulnerable place to go for strangers in a room. Like we would never say to somebody like, what's your biggest problem in your marriage?
Right.
Like it's really a very personal, it's very personal. And for
Yes.
some reason the federal government loves to throw these things into like documents. I mean, it's been in the IP forever, for years. Some questions like this that parents hate,
It's
right? I know. I think
why?
it's just, I was at the other side of the table as an educator,
Yeah.
and I went to meetings. And then, and I say that oftentimes to, my people at school who I love, but like I've been you and now I'm me. And that gives me such a unique perspective to be not only the parent, but the educator, and to know how this really feels and how important it is. I'm an advocate not just for my family, but for all families. We need to get test results before we have a big school meeting to make decisions. Like, you don't go into a meeting with somebody and say, well, you have cancer, what would you like to do about it? You get the cancer call a couple days, and then maybe you decide on your treatment plan. Not that autism is cancer, or but there's hard things. School is hard. And I think schools can be, the more you invite your family in, I would say to an educator, like, I want people to have my cell number. I want to have their cell number. I really will try not to bother you, but like just while we've been talking, I've gotten two. I mean, I got a photo of Amos. I'll show it to you.
Oh,
And
all
it just
right.
says, my line leader. Amos is leading the line
Oh,
today.
well
And
done.
when I asked him, like yesterday, I picked him up from school and I said, how was school? And he said, good. But like, that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
I get no information from him. I get more than maybe if he were nonverbal, but I get very little. So I depend on my school and educators to share things with me, because I just drop my heart off there and all day long I wonder what's happening. So I think that communication is probably the most important thing that families want is daily text your family every day, good things, but don't say to us, he just did something. What should I do? I don't know. Is the answer.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I mean, what incredible teachers to take the time to send a text like that to you, right?
And it
Props to
takes
the
a second.
teachers.
It takes a second, but teachers don't know to do it if we don't tell them. Boy, it's really helpful.
Yeah. Well, I think people don't know what to do in many regards unless we tell them what we need,
Right,
right?
right.
We have to express our needs to them.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
what's kind of what, what's kind of a one thing that you want to leave with us today? This one sort of resounding thought in terms of an insight into your life with autism.
Um, yeah, I think just to know we're not really any different than you. I mean, our struggles are just a little more out loud, life out loud. And if you read autism out loud and you don't have autism in your life, I think one, you're going to run into somebody that does, but two, I think everybody runs into grief. And, last spring, my father-in-law moved in with us after we lost my mother-in-law. I learned a lot about caregiving. We have a caregiving motherhood chapter, and um, everybody has life and stuff. And I think the more we are open and talk about that, it really will make your life better. And some people will say to me, like, it's great that you share, but I'm private. And I would say to you, like, being private is not helping yourself. Only
Yeah.
because I was private a long time and it will weigh you down and eat you alive. You have got to share and unload things, even if it's to a friend, so that those things don't weigh you down and drown you.
Boy, I completely agree. You can apply that to any circumstance. I think too, there are some universal truths in the book. Like I love one of my favorite quotes from your section is when you wrote, I'm going to read it directly. Dwelling on your fears of the future takes you away from the wonderfulness of today.
Okay.
Um, but uncertainty is hard. Uncertainty of any kind, whether that's uncertainty of what the future looks like for Amos or uncertainty about what's going to happen with someone's health problem or what's going to happen with this marriage. Uncertainty is hard. So how do you stop from future tripping?
I really do focus on today. Like
So that's it.
I mean, I just focus on today. And I also don't let like this my house is a disaster. But I'm like, I am working on changing beds and I mailed some things out. Like you can Amos is psychiatrist, Dr. Copeland at Duke Autism, I love. And whenever we have an appointment, Amos is not in the appointment. I'm in the appointment because I'm the one that's telling about him and how he's doing and he's listening to me. And the beginning of the appointment is always me vomiting all the problems, right? And then he'll say, like, okay. And he talks very calmly. What is the biggest problem we have? And I'll be like, well, not sleeping. Like, so that's how I ended up with a rollaway bed in my room, right? Because he wasn't sleeping. And we decided me sleeping was more important than him being in his own room, right?
Makes sense.
So doesn't mean we're not like we're trying it again right now. Does it mean there won't be a bed back? Maybe. Just choose one thing, every day, choose one thing. Sometimes I write something down that I've already accomplished so I can cross through it and be like, look, I did that.
I do that too. It's good psychologically. It's good. It's good
Yes,
for us.
it's
Yeah.
good. And
Uh-huh.
so I think just and laugh. Holy cow, laugh, laugh, laugh. We laugh all the time. We laugh at ourselves, we laugh at our children, we laugh at each other. I mean, we laugh. And because I don't know, it just makes such a difference, especially when things are hard. I mean, I still laugh. I mean, I laugh.
Well, we laugh with you. When I watch you, when I read, I laugh with you, and it's good for us, and I appreciate you bringing that joy to all of us. I always like to wrap up a conversation like this by asking, what's one thing you're grateful for today?
Hmm. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful that I really did mail out like 14 returns today. But can I say I'm ungrateful for the fact that I don't ever buy shoes from Europe because you have to fill out a customs form?
Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the neck. My husband's from England, so we send a lot of stuff over. Yeah, they're a
Well,
pain.
I'm done. Don't buy anything that you want to send back.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way.
What else am I thankful for? I'm thankful that I have done like 20 loads of laundry, literally. And we have a babysitter tonight, so I can go to the soccer
Nice.
game and I can maybe like talk to other adults. I love to talk to adults. That's the whole point of going to games.
Yeah.
And normally I'm talking to Amos about what car we're driving on November 2nd to Illinois, where we're not even going. And I
Well,
feel like I'm losing my mind.
I hope you enjoy tonight. Have fun out there,
Yeah.
adulting.
Yes. I'm
And
thankful that my husband does not ask things like, what are we having for dinner? Because he knows he might get succinylcholine in his meal.
well, I'm grateful that you're here and we've had this super time to chat. I
Yeah, well,
appreciate it
thank
so
you.
much, really, like bottom of the heart. Thank you, Adrian. Really
Well,
fun.
ask me again. I'm an expert on all sorts of topics.
And by the way, if you are not already following Adrian at Tales of an Educated Debutante, what are you even doing? Please do.
Yeah,
You'll
nothing.
find
You're
her
accomplishing things without me.
You'll find her on social media at Tales of an Educated Debutante or at her
Right.
website with links to the socials at talesofananeducatedDebutante.com. And you'll find me on social media at Tracy Wilson Writing Life and at tracywilsonwriter.com. We call this part Tracy Wilson Talking Life because we're talking
Yeah, I
about
like that.
writing, but hopefully we're not confusing America too much. And Adrian, thank you so much for being with us. And yes, pull your t-shirt down so they can see. I will follow you to St. Bart's. When are we going? Are you organizing a trip for us? Is
I
that what this
wish.
is about?
Yesterday I had this on. I'd stopped in a town called Beargrass, which you might not be familiar with,
Don't
to
know
get,
that.
yeah, I had to get Amos a drink. And I was in there
Where
staying at
where is that?
Beargrass. It's near Williamston.
Where is that? I mean,
Well, so you got northeastern North Carolina, and then you got all the little towns around it.
yeah.
Beargrass
Yeah.
is one of them.
Okay. All right.
But the guy said, now follow me to St. Bart's. Where is St. Bart's at? I said, well, it ain't in Beargrass, is all I got to say.
I think Amos would love St. Bart's. I think you should fly him
Amos
in.
is really into going places, but when you say, what are you going to do there? He's like, watch TV. My dad's like, I do notice he loves to see us in Florida, but he just watches TV while he's here. I'm like, that's,
You know what? We meet them where they are, right?
he's all part of the journey. He likes the
Right.
journey. He's not about the destination.
Well, again, the book is Autism Out Loud. Adrian Wood, you are a champion, and I
Thank
am
you.
most grateful for you today.
Well,
Thanks so
thank you.
much.